Well, here it is 10 minutes late, 15 minutes later, and I'm just going to preface this by saying this is part 2 of about a 30-minute series. I just was telling you what my plan was. I was going out to shoot the final in a series of groups. I ended up shooting 2. Because I'm really onto something here. I think I might be able to fulfill the promise I made. In the last video I was talking about how when we were in school we had to do some speeches, we had to do some things, and the thing I chose to do was, as I said, I spent a bunch of time working my audience up into a state and promised them that I would show them something that had never been seen before. I'd show it to them for 20 or 30 seconds, and nobody on this earth would ever see it again. I had a little guessing section. A few people gave it a try. When it was all said and done, it was time to wrap my speech up. I pulled a peanut out of my pocket and I shelled it, and I showed them the nut, and I ate it. Very anticlimactic ending to something that maybe somebody would have thought was going to be pretty impressive. But I'm telling that just to say, I'm hoping in this series to show you some things that you haven't seen before. What I achieved, now this is early days, but I'm really excited inside. I'm not jumping and shouting here because I know how dangerous that is, but in my fight for extreme spread, my gun was beating me to pieces. So I built something that I could get. I built a very kludgy recoil sled that I'm now convinced I'm going to have to change because it's kicking this and that. But here's the deal. I am going to pan down, and I'm just going to add a couple extra things in here just to kind of add some verisimilitude to my story. This is the fart blossom. I just brought it in. I cleaned it. And now I'm ready to get down, sit down, and start shooting this thing for effect. Because I'm holding the ES. The gun's not fouling. I've got a line of patches down here just because, kind of show you how I clean. This was the first fairly wet patch that went through the bore, and I take this through in one smooth pass. It's to take and pick up a bunch of stuff, but it's also to deposit a layer. Then I immediately followed it with a soaking wet patch. When I say soaking wet, there's no drips coming off. It's just got, in this case, probably 12 drops of Montana Extreme. And on this one, I short stroke and I scrubbed the bore. I felt like there might be just a tiny wee bit of something in this area that I had to get rid of. So, one of the things I was thinking about doing is bringing it back in here and chucking it on the old test loader while I'm talking and see if we can see anything in there. This bore's never been test longed. I've never even went in and looked at the chamber that I cut on the lathe. So maybe we'll do that if we have time, but mainly I'm just going to explain what I have here and lead up to the fact that I really think I'm showing something, I'm doing something, I've accomplished something that has never been done before. As I told you earlier, talking about the 22 Hornet and how I was never able to get the 22 Hornet to shoot, even in its K variation, because I think the primer effect was too big. So what I've been doing here is modifying that primer effect. Don't know if I can get this here Tezzy long to even work. I'm doing this off to the side so you don't have to watch it. But I hope some of you are peeking and looking at what I've got here. I'm going to bring this into the camera and actually get the next group. Really pretty much blew my doors off. blew my socks off. Blew me into the next millennium. I'd never seen anything like it. 1022, 1023, 1025. I was so excitable that this might just be an anomaly that I came in here and did another set. And I didn't clean nothing, I just took these here loads and chucked them back together. Go in here and see what I can find here. I saw a little copper as I'm rushing by. Thing might be copper in just a little bit. There's the end of my hand cut chamber. It's a big old 50 cal, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there. We're getting a little bit. That's the end of the... Yeah, see, I wanted to check and see. I've got a little bit of copper on the tips of the lands where I cut this. Remember, I cut this chamber. I don't have a reamer. This is a handmade chamber. Got a certain amount of freebore. That's the end of that. Boy, I don't even know if this stuff showed up on the camera. Bring it over here and run you through the paces again. Just to show you a little bit of copper build up there on those lenses. These are hard copper bullets. So I might need to go back in there and do a little soaky. That's why I want it to look. Look at that. The gun's not shooting great. I'm trying to decide how much of that is me and how much of that is, because I'm trying this recoil thing that I showed you in the last video, and it's kicking all weird and funky. Well, you can sure see the tooling marks in there. You can see I just was cutting my way back out with a right angle tool. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, there's a peek inside the bore after, boy, however many rounds I put through this thing. Looks like I'm going to have to go in and do a little bit more cleaning, but that's a good thing. That's not a problem. So I'll be unplug this, get it out of the way. But I'm just letting it sink in. I'm just basking in the glory of this extreme spread that I got. If I can hold this, this is ridiculous. We're ready to move into the next. I'm going to call this the load. I've got the load right there. Now, there is an anomaly. If those of you who are sharp-eyed have been noticing, I wrote that there. The stuff I shot today, this was the fouled bore, cold bore, gun sitting outside. This was also loads that were sitting outside in the other room. When I say outside, that's not really outside. I don't go outside in this kind of weather. It's rainy and it's, well, I mean, I go outside in this kind of weather when I'm doing something physical. But I don't go out in this kind of weather to try sit at a bench and shoot, because I can't hold. So regardless, it's cold and not cold and wet out there right now. We actually have snow on the ground. I am shooting over snow, which gives us gremlins. But what I'm really going for, what I've really, my only focus has been to get the extreme spread down and to show you my. I'm just gonna grab it here. This is my little. Got a bunch of discs of aluminum down there. They're kind of hard to see now. I had them up on here. Punched out sections here. This is the part that you've never seen. I showed you the scuff fit on the last ones. And here's the fired rounds. These are the last firing on that scuff fit I was telling you about. And one of the other challenges that I've never mentioned before, but this is a challenge, I'm trying to run the pressures up in these, but no matter what, at 1,000 feet per second, it's hard to get pressure up without deforming the bullets or whatever else could happen. So I'm fighting with, and one of the things that'll happen with a lower pressure load is it's hard to get the next to seal. And I take a look, this one's a little darker than the other, but not all the way around. They're sealing about this far down. They're acting and reacting very healthily. So I wanted to show you the fired rounds, and I wanted to show you my cleaning patches. I wanted to finish my story about showing you something you've never seen before. And the real thing is, remember, I'm sharing with you my journey. I'm always sharing with you what I've got going, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, the successes and the failures, warts, feathers, and all. At this point, I consider this aluminum foil trick to be a win, not a fail. I see it as a success. Granted, it's only been 7 groups. 4 of them are documented right here. Now it's time to loosen these necks up just a fuzz, because I did the slip fit occurred only because I didn't catch properly the dimension. I knew the dimension, but I didn't know how much it would tighten up on that sealing ring that's on there. And the fact that I had taken my dimensions from the front and rear and not realized this is, I'll do it this way. I had taken my dimensions not realizing that this dimension and this dimension were different when I turned these necks. Now these are only the first necks that I've turned. This is not a finished thing. I've only been, I'm still working my way into this, but I finally have a load that I now feel I can mock this gun up, weight this thing up, put the tube back on it that I used to simulate a silencer, a suppressor, which is what it's going to... It's so funny, I had a military guy over here the other day and I used the term suppressor and he said, "What?" So, well, that's what they're calling them now. And he goes, "No, a suppressor's a flash hider. What do you... That's just stupid. What you're dealing with is a silencer." Telling her I'm waiting to get one in the mail. But anyway, this in the end, to make this useful, I number one have to have the Genesis working, which is back, but I have to baseline this thing, learn how to shoot it, get it shooting, get a tracking mechanism that will hold it in place. Right now, every shot is quite a bit different, and my groups have not been impressive, but they're no longer tall, so that makes them impressive. I can hold this gun down and shoot it like a meat bag, but I got so sick and tired of doing that, and I hurt so bad that I built myself this recoil sled, and now I'm running into some trouble with the recoil sled. But I've got the ES down to where now I can just set that aside. Now I can load and shoot and play with my recoil sled and learn how to shoot this, learn how to... Understand, the bullet is in the bore on this thing for like 3.5 seconds. It's like shooting a muzzleloader. I shot those vertical groups that I showed earlier that just map the extreme spread. They just map the velocity accurately, in my opinion. But it hurt me so badly I don't want to do it anymore. So now that I shot the nice vertical groups with the high extreme spread. Now I feel like I've gotten rid of the extreme spread. Now I've got a load that I can just continue on with, and I can learn how to shoot it. And one of these days we're going to show you something that's up and running and working. Maybe my silencer suppressor permit will come in. But I think we've worked through several of the issues that we've had. And I'm begging all of y'all, I'm asking politely, will everybody please, if they're fighting for extreme spread, try this deal. I mean, I got a little brush here that I spin the chunks out of the primer pocket. I drop some heavy cooking grade aluminum foil in there. I seat that primer nicely. I actually rotate it, get all the legs seated down nice, make sure that it's completely down to flush and that all the legs are set. And I can tell you that I have just finished a run of 6 groups in a row, and the extreme spread has been ridiculously low. I expected to go into this fart blossom case, little bitty case, ramp the pressure up, get extreme spread like a PPC. PPCs are child's play to get down below 10 feet per second. It's almost automatic. And regardless of whether that makes them accurate or not, you can get a 10 foot per second load that doesn't shoot very well. That's just because you're not. You're either your gun sucks or you're not tuned, or there's all kinds of reasons why there's That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to shoot. It's absolutely true. But that aside, I kind of expected this little case to react well, but I think it's so small that it's doing what the old Hornets and K-Hornets used to do, the primer effect. And I'm feeling vindicated right now. I'm feeling really good about myself because this aluminum foil has flattened out the primer effect enormously. And now I'm ready to go out and start working this thing through the paces, because with, you know, the Genesis scope has got over 400 MOA of adjustment. And I'm going to need every bit of that to get this thing to walk out and even bang steel like the silly people do. I have to get it to group to make it useful out to 600. And at this point, I'm pretty convinced that I can shoot 8-inch groups, 10-inch groups at 600 yards. I'm not down under a minute yet. I have to be honest with the way but I think a lot of that is me not being able to ride it. So this first, I've only done about 40 of these big bullets. I've done a whole bunch of little bullets and medium-sized bullets, cheaper bullets. But now, after 5 groups with these bullets and a low extreme spread, I am really excited to announce that we're, problem by problem, we seem to be licking this thing into shape. So, as a fitted neck thing, I need to, these were just fired and they will not take. That's a big bullet and it won't go in there. I have to, that'll be hard to get out because it went in a little ways. But the point is, now it's time to clean that spot off there, get rid of the scuff fit, and get down. These cases, as far as I know, will last 1,000 rounds. So I'm running them at pretty high pressure. I'm going to figure that I'm running them at about 50,000. 45, 50K, I think. I have strain gauges. I don't want to dink with it. There's just a lot more to calibrating pressure, but they're getting up hot enough that they're starting to clear out. They're starting to show some impressions. The shoulders are sharpened up. They're pounding into shape pretty good. But these 3 cases should last me forever, and now that I've got the necks all evened out, I can trust that I can just mix and match them and throw them together. So that's the stage, that's the phase, that's where I'm going now. And I'm, excuse me, whew, getting close to supper time here, been drinking too much coffee. I'm excited to say that we're showing progress for the first time on the extreme spread front. And that progress is, yes, it's due to careful reloading practices, it's due to a bunch of things. These right here are loaded to touch the lands, not jammed. And they have been up until now loaded to such a scuff fit that they actually, if you push them in and out, they actually leave marks. Now these are the last time these will be fired at that scuff fit. And this is their, I have to go back and look at my notes, 30, 35 firings, whatever it's been. I'm going to go ahead and turn them, clean them up one last time, get them to make sure that there's no binding in the neck whatsoever. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you raw numbers. It's not dangerous to run a scuff fit, and if anything, the scuff fit versus loose fit might have changed the velocity by 10 feet per second, but it's just not a big deal. And these big, hard, solid brass, copper, gelding metal, whatever they are, bullets, are right up tight against the lands. And 10 feet per second extreme spread. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. That was an amazingly successful experiment. So now let's just see if we can hold that for the next number of months while I learn how to shoot this stupid hard-kicking mule son of a rum-bum-bum. Trying to channel a little gods must be crazy language there, but I'm not. I can't. Son of a baramba, whatever the guy says on there. Good movie. Watch it sometime. Ancient, old, funny, clean kids movie. Enjoy.